In the last episode, we deployed our serverless app locally and watched it run end to end. But how do we know that it really works? Every time. Today, we'll write an automated integration test. We'll upload a file to S3 and assert that the data is passed to DynamoDB. All running locally, no AWS account required. Before we jump in, here's a quick pre-flight checklist to make sure everything's ready. Make sure LocalStack is running, your app is deployed, your virtual environment is active, and PyTest with Botto3 are installed. If all of these are green, you're good to go. All right, let's write our test. This will prove that our pipeline actually works by uploading a CSV to S3 and checking that the records appear in DynamoDB. We'll use PyTest and Botto3 for this. Start by creating a file at the root of the project called testintegration.py. At the very top, you're going to import what we need. Python's OS module to set some environment variables, Botto3 to talk to AWS services, and time so we can pause for a few seconds and let the async processing happen. Even though we're not connecting to real AWS, Botto3 still expects credentials. So we'll set some dummy credentials here. These won't be used to actually authenticate. They just keep Botto3 happy. Next, we create clients for DynamoDB in S3. Since we're talking to LocalStack and not AWS, we need to specify the endpoint URL so Botto3 knows where to send requests to. Now let's define our test function. This is where the magic happens. PyTest will look for functions that start with test, so let's call it test S3 to DynamoDB flow. Inside the function, we first define our bucket name and DynamoDB table name. For now, we're going to hardcode these. Just make sure they match whatever you created when you deployed the stack. Later, I'll show you how to fetch them dynamically. We'll also define the file that we're going to upload. The sample file already lives in the SQS blog folder, so we'll point to that path. Now, we upload the file to S3. This is what kicks off the whole pipeline. S3 triggers a Lambda, which sends a message to SQS, which triggers another Lambda, which writes to DynamoDB. All that happens automatically. We then wait about 5 seconds to give the pipeline time to finish. Remember, Lambda and SQS are asynchronous. So if you check too quickly, DynamoDB might still be empty. Finally, we scan the DynamoDB table and assert that at least one item was inserted. If no items are found, the assertion fails and the test fails, which tells you your pipeline didn't complete. And that's the full test. Let's run it. Run PyTest on the test file in your terminal, and PyTest runs the test. If everything is set up correctly, you should see a green pass message. All right, so hard coding the bucket name and table name works, but it's brittle. What if someone redeploys and a name change? Let's make this smarter by discovering the bucket and table names dynamically using a prefix. We know what our S3 bucket is going to start with, so we can list all buckets and grab the one that starts with that prefix. Same thing with the DynamoDB table. We know it's going to start with the SQS blog stack - inventory updates. So let's list all the tables and pick one that matches. Now our test is much smarter. It lists all buckets and tables and finds the ones that start with our known prefix and uses those names. This way, even if you redeploy and AWS adds random suffixes, your test keeps working without any edits. That's how you future-proof integration tests. Now let's rerun the test and make sure everything still works. For extra verification, let's scan DynamoDB manually to see the records. Run this command. And here are the inventory records. Proof that the file triggered the pipeline and updated the table. Okay guys, I know that was a lot. So let's talk about what we just did. We wrote an automated test that updates a file to S3 and lets our pipeline run, and then checks that DynamoDB was updated. No cloud costs, no waiting on AWS, and repeatable anytime. In the next episode, we'll take this exact test and hook it into GitHub Actions so that it runs automatically on each push. See you there. Bye.